I know. All right. Good Monday morning, everyone. Woo! We are going to have a fun show today. It is the end of April. Oh my gosh, you guys, I can't believe May is just around the corner. But you guys listening to Author Talk with me, Amy, Russell, Valerie, Dwayne is our author guest today. Yes, I did not do our intro music. There's a reason for that. One, I'm all kinds of discombobulated. So
Yeah,
let's
I'm addicted to it.
I
Why
know, I'm
not?
sorry.
I
I'll
love
do the
that
closing.
stuff.
I'll do the closing, you guys. But just I'll do this quickly in a nutshell to prepare Russell for this. I already told him ahead of time about my weekend, so we don't have to spend as much time. You know, Russell
Oh
doesn't
boy,
like
she'll
that.
still go on. Don't think she
No,
won't.
I'm just going to tell you really quickly. And if you have questions, you guys are worried about it, you can text me, DM me, whatever you want to do. This weekend, so Josh took last week off, and Josh has started a new job this week. And he's working at home with me. So he's my office buddy. I've already put in complaints with HR, all this. It's great. And so we were leveling our backyard and our front yard this weekend. And Josh decided to just be a rebel, I guess, and somehow he had stepped on a screw that went through his shoe into his foot. So now he cannot
He
walk.
screwed his foot, just like
Pretty,
Michael grilled his foot.
pretty much. So we've been dealing with that on top of having some heart stopping moments. And just I've turned into this caretaker that I'm going to say quite good at. Okay. I am mouthy, but I've been great if I'm rating myself. Okay, you guys. So it's been a adventurous an adventurous and all kinds of rounds weekend for me. Never a dull moment here, you guys, at the Ravichandran household. It's either Josh or, one of my kids. I, on the other hand, am doing quite well, you guys. I haven't gotten sick this year. I haven't broken a bone. I survived the flu A plague in my
How many
household.
strips have you had in the household this year?
I haven't had any this year. I did
Okay,
have the flu,
Dwayne, she had
though.
like 12 times where
Yeah.
someone in the house had strep throat or
I
something
know.
last year.
We got
Big,
tonsils
big change.
removed. We got tonsils removed, and it really fixed a lot of stuff, you guys. It just fixed a lot of stuff. So, anyways, that was my weekend. I hope you guys all had a much more better and low key weekend than mine. But I'm dying to hear about everybody's weekend. So, who wants to go first? Valerie, Dwayne, Russell, somebody come at me with a weekend.
Okay, I'll come.
Okay.
I first have a question. When do you start thinking about what you're going to talk about as your weekend part of this show? When during the week or that day do you start thinking about it? Amy,
Me?
yes.
Me? Oh, I generally cannot wait to tell you guys Monday morning because if something funny happens, I'm like, oh man, Russell and Valerie are gonna love this.
Okay,
So
yes.
throughout the week.
Valerie, when do you start thinking about it?
Sunday night. Sunday night, I'm trying to like, okay, let me calculate what we did and tabulate and just just itemize like, wait, what did we do? What did we do again? I don't know. We were drinking a lot of margaritas. I don't know.
What? That's all you do. Dwayne, when do you start? Well, you never have done this before. Did you know we were going to do a weekend part?
I didn't know that, no, but I thought I started thinking about 3 weeks ago when I heard I was going to be on here. So
Okay.
I've had 3 weeks to prepare.
So
You beat all of us. I love it.
I like that. So all week, every week, when something happens, I think, is this what I want to talk about on the weekend part of the show? And I have like 4 or 5 things that I would like to talk about, but that's boring. I want to tell people a story about Amy. This is the biggest thing that happened in the last 7 days, and it's wonderful. It's a good story. You always hear me give Amy crap because I love giving her crap, but this is a good thing. When Amy started 9 years ago, when she got a job with Sandy Lawrence, to and I suggested let's start doing a podcast. Amy was just a cameraman. That's all she wanted to be. She really didn't have that much confidence about what she was doing. She was really nice, but she was really kind of shy. And she was just learning the business 9 years ago. And I finally started conspiring with Sandy, coming up with tricks to force Amy to be on the show. And I eased her into it. First, it was this one little thing, then two, then three. Then all of a sudden, she was on the show and she didn't even know it. And that's kind of that's where we started. Last week was the other end of that book. Last week, I was on a pretty serious conference call with uh, several successful authors. I almost said attorneys, but it was authors and another professional. And the other professional was Mickey, who's a well known publicist and that Amy works with many times. And he had asked Amy to be on it. And we were discussing a very important subject. And several times, Mickey had to ask Amy, and Amy went through these whole details of what was happening in the current business, blah, blah, blah. My point, all I could think of is, wow, she's come so far. I'm so impressed with her. That's all I could think. And Mickey later asked me, Russell, you haven't said anything. And I didn't really participate. I was listening. But the main thing, the whole meeting, I was thinking of Amy is so awesome. I'm so proud of her. And I just wanted the audience to know uh, through hard work, long hours, Amy has, I mean, she's just turned what she inherited from Sandy and what she learned into this beautiful business and everything that she does. And she knows so much. And I'm just so proud of her. And that's mainly the biggest thing from my weekend I wanted to talk about.
And she's an award-winning
I know, but she
podcaster.
never puts them up front the way I tell her to.
I know.
See, that's not cool because, all the big national sports people, they always put all their awards right up on their sides in front so you can see all their awards. You don't do that. I hate that about you. You should
Yeah,
do
no,
that.
they're all up there.
Well,
Russell
you
gets on
can't
to me.
see them up
I
there.
can. I
You
can.
need to redesign that room. Flip it over and turn it around so they can
I
go.
know. Oh my gosh, you
Anyway,
guys,
that's all I wanted to
Russell,
say.
that is
Dwayne,
very kind.
what'd you do this weekend?
Oh, well, I have a 92-year-old mother who just went into rehab. She broke her foot. So I spent one of those days in the rehab facility with her. She's
And
doing
that's
well.
where you belonged.
That's where I belong. Yes.
Yes, that's where you belonged. No, not in the rehab, but serving your mother when she needed you.
Yeah, but the next day I went to see a play out in the countryside near where I live. So my sister was looking after her for those days. But that's what I did
That's
for the
what a
weekend.
family does.
Yeah, I got a fairly large family, so that works out.
Valerie.
Yes, I was in San Antonio this weekend, visiting the kid, the son and the daughter, and just going to family day for his fraternity. And then what else did we do? Oh, and then we went and checked out the Fiesta in downtown San Antonio, which was really fun. Live music, just like spread out the whole downtown,
See,
walking,
it's
shopping.
always margaritas with you.
Well,
I gotta
no,
tell
I
you,
don't know,
I
but
don't
I
understand.
did have a margarita.
I do not
Well,
understand modern fraternities. I do not understand inviting parents to your fraternity house. The last
it,
thing I wanted
actually,
when I was in a fraternity was for my parents to come and see the drunks that I hung around.
well, actually, it was they had it at a food truck park, which was really different than last year because last year was held at somebody's like retreat property outside of San Antonio, and so this food truck park was it was a really interesting environment to have this because we were just all hanging out, and they gave us tickets for food and tickets for drinks, and then just hanging out with the boys. So, but a lot of parents showed up, and it was nice just meeting other people. Just we're just supporting. That's what we do. We
It's like
support.
taking kids on college tours. I don't understand that. I knew where I was going to school. That's where I went. The last thing I wanted was for my parents to go to the school with me and look around. They might have an opinion about something.
I never did those. I've
Me
never
neither.
done
Me
I've
neither.
never done
My
a
kids
college
didn't either.
tour. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
No.
well, in Memorial area of Houston, Texas, it's the thing. All the parents take their kids on these tours. I have no idea how that started.
I
Yeah.
don't know. I know a lot of my kids' friends, they a lot of them did it too, and I was like, that's a lot of time. That's a lot of
Yeah.
gas. That's
Okay.
what do you hope to see that's gonna change your mind? I don't know.
Yeah.
I need to thank the people that listen to us on our podcast. Dwayne, most people listen to us during the week on our podcast, not live. Uh, we're top 1% on some of the channels. We're very proud of it. We're very humbled by it. We started this 9 years ago, and uh, we worked really hard, and we're very proud of it. And we thank you for listening to us. When we first started on the podcast, I couldn't find us. Then Amy did some things, moved, changed the color or something. I don't know what she did, but all of a sudden we were at the top of the podcast. It's easy to find us now. Amy, where can they find us?
Yeah, so you guys can find us anywhere that you can look for podcasts. My go-to is Amazon, Spotify. If you're an Apple user, iTunes, Android is Google. Good Pods is another one. If you want to watch us live and engage with us, you can come over to our Facebook group, our YouTube channel, any one of our social media platforms. We're all public. You can send us a direct message or you can comment. Even if you're not watching live, you can comment after the fact. We'll make sure that it gets incorporated or answered in some way. And all I did was rebrand the colors, you guys, to crimson, red, and gold because
You
those
had
are
to
my
have done more than
favorite.
that.
I mean, I did that and I did some SEO stuff to it. Now Russell can find us, you guys.
Yeah,
So now there's no reason you can't find us if Russell can.
that's
So
and that's not a cut. That's a fact.
it's the
Okay,
truth.
I'm dying to. If Valerie, do you mind if I start? I'm dying to ask Dwayne a question.
No, go for it. Go for
Go
it.
for it.
Okay, Dwayne. So, in your bio that you sent us, and in your explanation of what you do in your short stories that you're going to talk about today, you the main thing, the main subject of that piece was character development. Uh, you seem to put a lot of stress on your characters. And the way you describe them is, I found it very interesting and very exciting because you didn't talk about good or bad. You talk about the struggle of good or bad, which is different. And uh, I envision that you may have that your uh, protagonist may have serious warts. Your antagonist may have good reasons. Uh, Talk to me a little bit about the characters that you write about in your short stories.
Yeah, sure. Character development for me, when I started out as a writer, I did everything that writers were told to do. Sort of look into the character's wallet, develop a character dating bio for this character, and so forth. But eventually, I got to think that really what short stories were about was a clash of values. And so I tried to develop characters often with two sides to them. They might be loyal to the family. They might be loyal to the king. They might have a violent side to them or a need for violence, and yet they might also be at heart a pacifist. And often when you bring characters together, two characters, and that's usually the way I start a short story, is just by juxtaposing two characters who have some sort of a conflict. But often when you bring two characters together like that, it is a clash of values. And I think that's what an audience, what a readership finds interesting in the stories is the clash of values, not necessarily the limp that I give the character or the physical tics that I give a character, but that clash of values becomes the tension in the story, and so that's where I try to get to with it. I'm sorry, I think you're muted there,
You're
Russ.
muted, Russell.
I'm sorry, I didn't want to interrupt. The truck was coming up the side of the mountain.
Oh,
So, when you work with these multiple characters, two characters, how do you ensure different voices for the characters?
Well, that's interesting. Uh, I started out, wanting to be a writer when I was a young guy, but I got waylaid. I got sidelined by theater. I suddenly took a drama class when I was in university, and I just fell in love with it. And I went to Stratford here in Canada for a year, did some work with the CBC in Toronto, and then I came back and got a job as a drama professor. So, for me, and maybe one of the interesting facts about the book, it's maybe why you find sort of different voices and different stories, is that I tend to try to approach it as an actor might approach a character, and really try to find the voices of those characters. What I notice is, I haven't found that voice until the dialogue is right. It seems like the character, I don't know if other writers have said this to you, but the character comes into focus once you can hear them, once you hear them, and their rhythms and their vocabulary and so forth. So it's an experiment with characters, and I do enjoy that part of it. I like to step into the characters' shoes, and have different voices in the stories.
So tell us a little bit about your background,
Oh,
as you already started.
yes, I did. I grew up in a small town. My dad was a dryland farmer here in Saskatchewan, a small town called Nakem, Saskatchewan, and had a high school teacher named Terry Chamberlain, who encouraged me to write. I was never very good at science or math or anything like that, and so this was the encouragement, was to write some things. And right out of high school, I wrote it was a nonfiction piece about a guy I knew who was experienced in hang gliding, and I just wrote about him. And this story got published in a provincial newspaper here called the Western Producer. And I remember going in to see the editor of the Western Producer. His name was Rusty McDonald, and I was maybe 16, 17 years old. And he sat me down and he asked me, he said, "So you want to be a writer?" And I said, "Yeah." And he said, "If I was you, I would go to Hollywood and get on the writing list for the Beverly Hillbillies." And I don't know if that's because he thought I was a hillbilly, or or if he thought I was a writer, but
I think that meant that he thought you might be a writer, but he didn't want you to be poor.
Yeah. Anyway, I didn't sadly do that. I went into the theater for a while. I actually got a scholarship to go to a creative writing program in Virginia, Hollins College, I think, in Virginia. And I couldn't afford it. I got a little scholarship, but I couldn't afford the rest of it. So I just came back to the old University of Saskatchewan here, did the drama thing, and I kept writing through all of that. I was writing through my career as a theater professor, but really things started to come into focus when I got hired on by the Canadian Broadcasting Corporation to do a series of vignettes about a small town character from Saskatchewan. They played twice weekly on the radio, and I had to write them and voice them. And that really got me back into writing big time in the 1990s. And from there, I just started writing short stories, novels, etc. I've had novels out. One about baseball. One about a traveling baseball team from Georgia, who travel up through the central U.S. and into Canada and play baseball during the 1930s. And the other novel is about a struggling playwright in London in 1850. And it was based on basically on my thesis for my PhD. I had to write on this melodramatist named George Dibdin Pitts. So I used him as a model for that character. He was a kind of a laudanum addict, and he wrote about 600 plays in his lifetime. They all got produced by one theater. So I wrote those things. I've dabbled in poetry a bit. I've got 2 books of poetry out, and theater history text as well.
Okay, well, that leads me to another 2 questions. I'm sorry, Valerie. It's just this guy is so
No,
interesting. I
go,
can
go.
hardly stand it.
We're on a roll.
So then, who is your favorite dramatist? Who is your favorite poet, living or dead? And tell me about your education with Shakespeare, because someone like you, I always ask that question. Aimee and Valerie knew I was going to ask that question.
Yes.
Favorite dramatist. I mean, Shakespeare would have to come in there. I like a guy named Joe Pennell. I don't know if you've ever heard of his plays, but Blue Orange is one of his plays, which I really like, and I'm hoping somebody out there will see me and cast me in it. Actually, if you're looking for an old guy to be in Blue Orange, hey, I'm your man. Yeah, him. I like W.B. Yeats a lot as a poet.
Yeats, I'm surprised a little bit.
Yeah, I just fell in love with him. I was at a poets conference in Ireland about 2 years ago, and traveled through sort of Yeats country. It was a great conference, by the way. It was
it was like a vacation, wasn't it?
Yeah. And I remember they were talking about a guy who won the poetry prize. They have a poetry prize in Ireland that they give to people who are in prison. As a creative writing program. The very first award was given to a bank robber. He was a former bank robber, and the prize was funded by the Bank of Ireland. So this commissioner for the Bank of Ireland had to come and give the award to the guy who had robbed his banks, which I thought was great.
It's poetic.
So I don't even know that guy's name, but already he's one of my favorite poets.
Okay.
I mean, what? I can't imagine the material he has.
Yeah.
To work with.
So, yeah.
So tell us a little about your newest book and the short stories in it that has got me so enamored with your writing.
Well, thank you. I've got a copy of it right here. I kept it on hand. It's a book of short stories, unlike many that you will read, because they aren't linked in any way. It's more a collection than a set of short stories with a common theme or with linked characters running through them. Some are narrated by men, some by women, one by a murderous parrot. They're set all over the world, generally places I've been, like Los Angeles, Hawaii, of course, several set in Saskatchewan here in Canada, but also London, Libya, Mexico, places like that. So it's a bit of a travelogue too. The reason it's called Theories of Everything is that it's pretty all encompassing. It goes all around the world, tells stories from a male point of view, a female point of view, a parrot's point of view, and so forth.
And I really enjoyed hearing you talk about just the jumping around of locations. I just, like you were saying a minute ago, Georgia and then London, and just that's so great. Do you do any preparation research to get your characters in that zone?
Almost all of the stories come from a real event. I was for example, in Los Angeles. This would have been 10 years ago now. And I did what every Canadian does when they go to Los Angeles. They do the Stars Tour of Hollywood, where you get on a little trolley and you ride past Quentin Tarantino's house and see where Joni Mitchell. They always show Canadians where Joni Mitchell lives as well, because she's of course from not just Canada, but she's from my hometown. She's from Saskatoon. But yeah, I did that, and I just started to get interested in the guy that ran the tour. And it was an interesting fella, and I thought, okay, so what is this guy's relationship with the movie stars really? And and he struck me as a kind of an obsessive fellow. So I wrote a story about this guy obsessing about a kind of a minor movie star, and at the same time being a tour guide operator. So I mean, stories tend to come out of that. Some are out of newspaper articles that I've read. I was in Victoria here on Vancouver Island a while ago, and I was just walking through the inner harbor with a friend of mine, and we saw two fellas, and this became the first story in the book. We saw two guys. They were both dressed in black leathers. It was a hot summer day. Black leathers. One guy was in a wheelchair. The other guy was pushing the wheelchair. They both had those sunglasses on that look like welder's goggles, those ones that come around your eyes. And I just, my buddy said, you know who that is? And I said, no. And he said, well, it's a famous rock star right there. Oh. And so I turned it into a story about a famous rock star as told by a music producer. And that's the first story of the book. But often, they start with a real situation like that, or something that just sort of piques me in a certain way.
Can I ask a question? Interrupt Valerie.
Sure.
I've totally messed up your whole system today, but that I have a question about your short stories from all over the world. Do you not find it difficult to write a story about Libya when you were just there one time, right? Or do you find it difficult to write a story about a place you've just been one time? I know I tried to write a story about about a story that happened in Portugal at some places that I went, but I'd only gone to these places one trip, and I just didn't have enough content to make it feel real. How do you do that, Dwayne?
Yeah, it's I agree. One time is not enough generally, and it probably shows in the story set in Libya. There's a story set in Costa Rica about a lady who weaves articles and sells them on a reserve, and I was there on two occasions, but each time for 2 weeks, and I was doing a kind of a university program where I went to a place called Baruca, which is a lovely place, and I taught mask acting there, which was kind of interesting for me because they have their own mask tradition, and they have their own fiesta called Los Diablitos, which is the Barucans never gave in, never capitulated to the Spanish back in when was it, 1715 or something like that. Never capitulated, and in fact, they were in the jungle, and they would put on these masks, these frightening masks, and wear them so that the Spanish were frightened of them. And to this day, they celebrate that festival. But I got the chance there to be in Costa Rica for in total about a month in two separate occasions, and on that reserve, living with the lady who actually narrated that story to me.
Okay, so it was more than one time, which brings me to my final question. And then I will relieve this to Valerie. I've lied to her 3 times already, but you keep saying things that stimulate other questions. And that is, how do you, uh, well, I forgot the question. Well, go ahead. I forgot it.
It'll come back. It'll come back. So, how many stories are we talking about in Theories of Everything?
There's 15 in all.
Wow, that's great. And do they all have the same tone? Or are we like talking like humor, tragedy, drama? What's going on in some of these?
Yeah, they're quite different. I mean, they were written over a prolonged period of time, and so
Exactly.
some of them. I mean, there's one real outlier in the book, and it's a story called "The Sewing Machine," and I think it's the only story that's set way back when. It's kind of historical fiction, and it's actually just a story my mother used to tell me about my grandmother. My grandmother in the 1930s, when the Depression hit, uh,
Mhm.
was about to lose her sewing machine. The repo man came to her house and and tried to take her sewing machine away from her. And it was the way she sold articles of clothing. It was the way she made a living for herself and her husband,
Mhm.
who wasn't making much money on the farm. And as the story goes, my mother was just a little girl standing beside the stove when this happened. But she said her mother, my grandmother, rolled up her sleeves and sat on the sewing machine and said if the repo man was going to take it, he'd have to be a better man than she was. And so she was quite a formidable woman. I knew
Yeah,
her. You know, I knew her quite well until I was about 15 when she passed. But I don't think you'd
that
want to mess with her. She
that's
was,
a great story because, not only you have a great person to write about, but then you can build on that character and the
yeah,
personality and the situation. What a situation,
yeah.
that and just going back in that history. And I'm sure you heard that story so many times you could even elaborate.
Yeah, it's one of those stories that you know, like what did Hemingway say? You can write a story in a half an hour, and then it takes 6 months to revise it. But it was one of those stories that I wrote in a day and a half sort of thing because it was all there, and I didn't
Mhm.
really change much. You know, it's
And that's
sometimes
what you have to do. You have to write it down while it's just burning words in your head.
yeah.
Um, sorry about my voice. How about what was I going to say? Now, Russell, now I caught your contagion. I forgot
Yes, but now I
forgetfulness.
have a question while you gather.
Okay, thank God.
Okay,
Thank God.
which is the question that now that I've remembered it. So, Dwayne, because you do these stories based upon your, well, in the places that you travel and you find interesting people, does it lead you when you travel to explore a little deeper, to meet interesting people you see, or step into interesting situations that you might walked by just as a tourist?
I think that I do go and search out stories in a way. But I
Yeah,
mean, in a way, I think every tourist does that. You know, I mean, in tourist
I would
theory,
think so.
they talk about going. You know, you see the guy who's polishing ivory, or you see the trinkets out in front of the bazaar, but everybody wants to go inside and see the guy who's actually doing the work. You know, and I guess that has been a strong impulse for me. I always wanted to get inside and see, okay, what's behind all of this, and who are the people that are. I was in India one time, and I, of course, went to the Taj Mahal and all of that, and I remember afterwards, my driver took me to this ivory place, and we went since they wanted to, of course, to sell you all this ivory, but we went backstage, and there was a guy back there, and he was grinding the ivory down on a little uh, a mechanical grinder, and his fingers were bleeding from the work,
Oh my
And I remember my driver, pointing this out to me, saying, look how much blood, sweat, and tears goes into all of this. And I felt like I'd been let behind the scenes
goodness.
in the way that I think they want tourists to have that experience. Hope that answered your questions, Russell.
It does. It does. It does. In my travels, I always have to step into the mess or step toward the people that seem interesting. I just can't resist it, whether it was, in China on the river or in India myself. There's always that place. It's like last year I was in Japan, and there was a little restaurant which served moving food, and that's just some place I had to go, even though there was no one that spoke English in there. And I had people laughing at me while I was trying to eat moving food, but it was wonderful.
Where's your favorite place in India? Where did you like to go there?
Yes.
On the in Varanasi,
Oh, okay.
I got to sit under the replacement tree of the tree where Buddha had his first enlightenment. That was a big deal to me. Or watching the baptisms before dawn on the Ganges. That's just, you can't see that not completely be changed on your
Yes.
lookout on life.
Yeah. It's a beautiful place, a very spiritual place, isn't it?
Yes.
Oh, for sure.
So I think Valerie's going to ask you next. What do you plan next, Dwayne? What are you working on?
Yeah, I'm working on two things right now. I try to keep a couple of things on the go, but one is a Western novel, but it's set in the Canadian West in 1884, which was the birth date of my grandfather, and I think partly, the reason I'm writing it is because I want to kind of learn what world he was born into, and how that world has changed since then. My grandfather was born in North Dakota, and he and his brother came up to Saskatchewan when there was free land, free homesteads up here in 1905, and I got the opportunity to work with that old man on his homestead until I was 15 years old. So I knew him pretty well, and I wanted to write a Western set in Saskatchewan. So that's part of it. And then another thing is just a historical piece, a memoir really, but just about a year in my life, where I worked in northern Saskatchewan in a Métis town called Isle La Crosse. I worked there teaching. And and so I found that an interesting 1 year in my life. If there's been 1 year that's interesting, that would be it.
Valerie?
Because what happened? What happened?
Various things. I mean, mostly as this memoir is developing, what I'm noticing is just a change in myself, more than a change in anybody else. I was hired on as a teacher. I was teaching English literature, and it was my first teaching gig. I wasn't a very good teacher at the time, but my first teaching gig. And so I had to drive back and forth every week. I taught down here in Saskatoon for part of the week, and then I would drive, and it's about 450 miles straight north on the Churchill River is where this is. But it was just how my attitudes changed. I started out thinking, that, the answer to all our social problems here in Saskatchewan was just to educate people. But I never thought about sort of educating my own self. And really it turned into an education for me, being up there. Yeah, it was an amazing experience for me when I was like 27, 28 years old. Just kind of changed my life.
That's beautiful.
That's
Aimee, did you say something?
Well, I was muted, but I
think
was
that'll
just
be
saying, like,
very profound.
Yeah, like I could see how that would change your life. Like that's what I was muted when I said that. I have to mute myself because I'll
I
just
just
sit here
thought
and
that
talk.
was a great microphone that you broke.
No, it just I can mute from my mic sometimes. It's fancy.
Yes.
It's fancy, Russell. Fancy.
Well, I gotta say, so
But I was going to
how
ask
is
really quick.
oh go ahead. Go ahead.
Oh,
Go
I was
ahead,
just going to
Valerie.
ask, like, what is the appeal to be a short story writer and to be a short story writer instead of just a novelist?
That's an interesting question, because I have found short stories harder to get published. I mean, you can get them published in journals and things, but books of short stories, there are just so many creative writing programs out there now. I don't know if it's the same in the States, but in Canada, they've been burgeoning in every university. And of course, everybody, the stock in trade of a creative writing program is the short story. And so everybody comes out of them with short stories, and they're often very good books of short stories that have been sort of vetted by 18 different people, and you're up against that all the time. So they're hard to get published. I'd say harder than a novel to get published. But what I like about them is well, a couple of things. I like the conciseness and brevity of them. I like the fact that, in that first paragraph, you've got to get character, you got to get theme, you got to get action, going in that first paragraph. But more than that, I think I like the immediate gratification of the fact that you can finish a draft in 3 days or a week or whatever it takes of a short story, whereas a novel, you're slogging away for often a year, sometimes more than that. Yeah, so it's that immediate gratification that's quite lovely about short story writing. I also, I don't know, I just enjoy reading them a lot. I tend to have a book of short stories around my bedside, and I try to read, either a short story or a poem.
It's kind of a Canadian tradition, isn't it, Dwayne?
Oh yeah, Alice Munro. Every student of literature in Saskatchewan and Canada has studied her stories, and it's not that there aren't great short story writers everywhere, of course. Hemingway wrote a lot of good short stories. Chekhov, yeah, exactly.
Some of the greatest, The Old Man, The Girl and the Dog, some of my greatest stories I've ever read, long or short. Yeah,
they really are, aren't they? And they're taught generally around the world, Chekhov's stories. People wondered, like I of course came to Chekhov as a playwright, and I thought, geez, this guy, only lived till he was 41 or 39 or something. Yeah, and I mean, he wrote these 5 amazing plays, and I thought, where did they come from? But then I started to read the short stories, and I realized, oh, okay, so that was his tutelage, was the short story, and that's how he got to be a great playwright.
Well, he was a great writer way before then, right?
Yeah,
I mean, those short stories are spectacular.
Yeah, they really are. And I think he churned them out sort of one a week too. He tried to put himself through university, right? Through medical school by doing this, which is more than I could have done. You have to admire the man.
Man, I feel like Russell has more questions, but I have to cut Russell off because we're only 45 minutes. And Dwayne, I could sit here and talk to you and listen to you and Russell talk the whole time, but I don't like the evil look that I get from Russell. And so for that, we'll have to have you back on.
Yet. I'm not finished.
No. So we'll have to have you back on to finish the conversation with Russell. Yes. Russell, write down all your questions, okay, so we can cover them.
Don't forget them.
Yeah, that's true. So don't forget them, but I don't want the evil eye from Russell. And if I go over even 30 seconds, I generally will get a nasty text message or a nasty look. And I'm trying to avoid that. Russell said nice things about me today, and I'm going to avoid making him mad at me. So with that being said, Dwayne, I want to thank you for taking time out of your day to come and hang out, laugh, and for us to hear your story and your writing journey. I think it's important and it's a beautiful story. And I couldn't, for the first time in my life, I couldn't get Russell to shut up. So thank you very much.
I'm sorry, Valerie.
Thank you so much. But you have been such a delight. So you are welcome to come back on anytime. I will let Mickey know that. But I want to thank you so much for taking time out of your day to come and hang out with us today.
Thank you all. It's been such a joy to talk to you.
Oh, well, good. So everybody else listening now or listening to the replay, we hope that you have a fantastic Monday. Don't go stepping on any screws, okay? And a great week. And until next week, bye for now.